Canucks win. Of course, they're eliminated from the playoffs. We know they're going to go on a huge run, kill any chance of getting a higher draft lottery pick. Who knows? Canucks have had such terrible luck in the draft, man. Well, who's their highest pick ever? Number 2, Trevor Linden. Peter Nedved was a pretty high pick. Oh, God, the Peter Nedved year, I believe that was the same year that Yager was drafted. Keith Primo, Mike Ricci, and I think Yager was drafted 5th. He was drafted after all those guys. There were a few other guys in there. I can't really remember. Anyways, this game, the Jets, man, they look bad. They look pretty shaky, pretty shattered, pretty unconfident for a lot of the game. And then every once in a while, they were able to turn it on. They were pretty competitive with the Canucks, which means they're not looking good. I mean, they got big designs. They want to do well in the playoffs, but they've had elite goaltending with Connor Hellebuyck for the last few years. They got pretty solid forward depth, although, I mean, like him or hate him, Laine is a pretty good goal scorer. He's really struggling in Columbus, and now Dubois is there. He had some good chances, but Demko shut him down. But I've heard that he's also not doing so well in Winnipeg, so I mean, maybe those players are just these kind of problem guys, and they're both going to end up playing together somewhere like Arizona, where it doesn't really matter about your personality. The Jets just had terrible neutral zone puck control. It seemed like, and we've seen this on the opposite side with the Canucks, where, you know, when it feels like the Canucks try to forecheck, they try to get something going, and then the second they turn it over in the offensive zone, it's like an odd man rush the other way. That's what it was like for the Jets for most of this game. Their defense looked terrified, where they just immediately back off. They allow entry in the zone, and odd man rushes are just killing them. I haven't paid attention to any of the Oilers and Jets games, but I would imagine that the way the Jets play and the way the Oilers love to use those cross-ice passes behind the net out front, I would assume the Oilers would eat them up in the playoffs. But I guess it'll be, well, Toronto's going to be first place, and I guess Winnipeg is just going to squeak in. And Edmonton is second. So I'll check that after. Anyways, Hoglander, what a game for this guy. He's so smart on the boards. We've seen that. He's so smart with the puck. I think he's going to they should start letting him kill penalties. I mean, I don't want to see him get injured by blocking a shot, but you see other star players all over the league penalty killing. I think like Draisaitl kills penalties, Mitch Marner. Hoglander would be perfect. He's fast. He has a sense for where the puck's going to go and develop. He wins battles on the boards. You could just see him leading the league in shorthanded goals, like he did here. The Jets had the defense were trying to, I think, cross over on the blue line, and they did a little stupid dump pass, and Hoglander sensed it, split right between them, had the breakaway, scored on the rebound. Way to go. Michaelis, man, I love Michaelis, but he had some rough moments in the game. He couldn't handle a breakout pass in the D zone, and then he gets run into by Grayovac. It was awful. I definitely like him more than VC and for the most part Boyd, but I'm pulling for Michaelis to find a spot on the fourth line. He's still young. I think he's still going to be an RFA, but I mean, maybe he's got a little bit more potential to squeeze out of him. You know, he's not 30 yet, but he still has some pretty shaky moments like that, and he's one of those players, because he's not providing a lot of offense, he needs to play basically a perfect game all the time to make it work. McEwen, I thought, had a really nice game. I don't think McEwen's going to score. You know, I mean, if he ever sticks around, he could maybe get like 10 goals in a season or something. But he plays pretty smart defensively. I think people really don't give him credit. They just think that he's a big kind of goon out there. He's noticeable when he does screw up because he's so big, but he made a lot of great defensive plays that I was pretty impressed with, and I'm always impressed with. If he could just be maybe a bit more aggressive or hit a little harder, or I don't know, be like a bit more of a physical deterrent, then I think he could totally win himself a spot in the lineup. But he needs to add a few more elements in there. Like people have been complaining about Boyd and VC and Michaelis and the Granlund thing of like, you got to do something well. And if you're not going to score, you need to be really good defensively, not make mistakes, or you got to hit hard, or you got to be physically intimidating. You got to do about like two things pretty well. Bo Horvat goal, 2-0. Dubois had a really clumsy dump in. He had a bad pass out. Highmore starts off the rush with Pearson and Horvat. Jets D just give him all kinds of room. The rebound, Bo scores. And that's the thing, like, that's 2 goals now off the rebound. And the Canucks able to just tap them in pretty easily. The Jets defense is just, they've never been able to rebuild after losing the great Tyler Myers. And who else did they lose? Oh, Big Bufflin. They haven't found that anchor back on their defense. So it's just too bad. The Jets at this point in the game, they have no swagger. Like before when they played the Canucks, they're mouthing off a lot. They're really physical. They got some bullies on that team. They're not huge, but the Canucks don't play like a big team. The Canucks play sort of small most of the time, other than Pearson. Oh, Hamannik is nice to have around. You know, McEwen's a good size. Miller's going to get in people's faces. He's not going to back down. Jake, remember that guy, Jake Vertanen? He sometimes can get involved. But the Jets usually push the Canucks around, and they just looked sheepish. When Blake Wheeler took an interference penalty, he looked embarrassed when he was sitting in the penalty box. On the Canucks power play, they put Rathbone down on that right side boards. The flank, as Thomas Drance calls it on Twitter. He looked good there. Now, Green or whoever runs their power play has been rotating a lot of guys in and out of that spot. They've put Hoglander there, who's been great, because you need somebody there who's quick, who can accept passes, who can dish passes, who can do things in really tight. And they need to have... It's a tricky position because you're often turning your back to the play to get something off the boards, and then you need to really quickly either dump it down behind the net or back out to the point or across the ice. So you need to be... And you're going to be doing stuff on your offhand. And Hoglander is normally really good at that. Rathbone was really good at it. His first steps are so fast. It's like he's hitting the turbo button. He's just teleporting left and right. His edge work too, the way he can just change direction. His skating is incredible. When he was on that right side, he got a great one-timer off on the power play. He retrieved a ton of pucks. Man, he's played a lot of great games, and his confidence is just growing. And he was great in defense. I can't remember who it was. I'm sorry. I think it was somebody in the Athletic, maybe Harmon Dial, showed a great clip of Rathbone identifying the play, coming through the neutral zone, stepping up, closing the gap, and just shutting down the play with an anticipation, skating, a good stick, no penalty. He's a good one. And God, I really hope it wasn't Judd Brackett or whoever had left the Canucks that was drafting these guys late, because if Hoglander could be a great second line piece in your top 6, maybe, a cameo in the first line, maybe a good penalty killer, Rathbone. Levy was a high pick, so we're talking about these later picks. We'll see what Podkolzin does. He was a first rounder as well. But anyway, Demko was so good in this game, man. There was he stopped Dubois where Demko was down in the butterfly, and then he just leaps to the right side like a young Jack Rathbone to stop Dubois. It was just amazing. Oh, Edler had a really bad play in this game. He was retrieving the puck. Hamannik sets a pick for him. So the puck is going back towards Demko. Edler's after it, and you can see him checking. I think it was like Kyle Connor or somebody behind him. One of the Winnipeg's top forwards was behind him. Hamannik sets a pick and doesn't take a penalty. Really smart, because it was a very obvious pick. And then Edler turns to the right to go to the far boards. There's no support there, even though he has Hamannik behind him and he's got someone else on the closer side to the camera. And Edler goes to the left because that's his strong side. He's left-handed, and he just kind of whiffs on it and gives it up. The Jets start pressuring like crazy, and then I think it was one shift later or half a shift later, the Jets score. And this really gave the Jets some life, and the Canucks were struggling all over the place. Myers had a non-pressured breakout, and I've been talking about Edler a lot in the last couple of videos, and I love the guy and what he's done, and I think he deserves a spot in the Ring of Honor, and he's been such a wonderful player for the team. But like I said before, you just can't get away with being a passenger or somebody who's going to make mistakes on the defense core. Like you can have a fourth line that fucks up, but your top 6 defense, They're going to be on the ice a lot of the game, and their mistakes end up in the back of the net. And I just would like to see this defensive core without Tyler Myers and Edler. Give you a Levy more of a chance. Jalen Chatfield, I think, has been a solid player. Because, you can say, oh, yeah, well, they'll play on the bottom pairing or whatever, but that's still going to be like 14 minutes a game. So, it sucks. You hate to see it because Edler's just been such a warrior for the team. But perhaps, just like shorten his ice time and you can figure something out. But with Myers also there, it's just too much of a liability. Man. Oh, and how about Hoglander scoring? And brighter news to make it 3-1. Rathbone starts the play. I think Miller has the second touch. He goes off a jet, so I don't know if those guys get assists. Hoglander pushes through a few jets, scrambles their defense. I think he was trying to maybe pass to Besser or shoot it at the net, but it goes off a jet, goes in, 3-1. Hoglander's the star of the game, hero of the game. And before that, when he didn't score, he was streaking on the left wing. He does this kind of like half spinorama. He's got 3 jets just watching him, and then he rings one off the post. He's one of those guys that he has a special set of skills that align him really well to performing in the NHL. It's that he can just sense how the play is going to develop. He knows how to use his body. He knows like the physics of the game and the puck. And he's just the total opposite of Virtanen, where he understands, or like a VC, like VC and Virtanen, if you were just playing a regular, like if you were in an all-star game with them or a junior game or like a beer league game, their speed and shot and deking would blow you away. But in this league, when everybody can skate pretty well, when even the most fringe player can skate well and can score when given a chance, everything in the NHL that really matters is like, what can you do in close? What can you do when you're gassed? And predicting how the play is going to develop and where to be. And Hoglander does that so well. And man, I love him. And he's just been such a bright spot for the season. And I can't wait to see him grow. He's kind of like he's like a Jannik Hansen that can finish better. And has got more fire. Man, I love him on the team. I think he's just going to be such a great piece going forward. So it was a pretty entertaining game. I would love it if they could play like this and lose, because getting some kind of a nice draft pick out of this would be a great consolation prize for such a tough season. I guess it's been a few days and we haven't heard if Gordon is going to get hired by the Canucks. Aquilini likes Benning. Benning will be around. Will they do something in the offseason to change our mind on him? Or is he just going to go, see, I told you. I didn't need that many draft picks. I traded him away and I got Hoglander and Rathbone. Rathbone was, I think, drafted something like 50 in the 50s. That's crazy. This guy could be in our top 4 for the next 5 to 10 years. But what if you didn't trade away all those draft picks? Imagine what you could have done then. What did you guys think of the game? Thank you very much for watching this. I'll record a video after the next Canucks game, which will probably be a huge win as they go undefeated to finish off the season. Thanks.